Scooby-Doo and Kiss, The Good Dinosaur, Strange Magic, The Cinderella Reboot, Alvin and the Chipmunks 25, The Road Chip, Cool Cat Saves the Kids.
We're not gonna give you our lunch money. I'm not afraid of you anymore.
2015 was a weird year for kids' movies. Many of these films were just fluff and filler meant to keep kids distracted for a couple hours while their parents went and quaffed a couple glasses of wine. But one film saved the children. And no, it wasn't Cool Cat Saves the Kids, it was a different movie. One film stood up as a beacon of childlike wonder and purity, two things which haven't been seen in theaters again since then. It's no secret at this point that I love Charles Schulz's Peanuts. The television specials and comic strip were a huge part of my exposure to media growing up, and I've become rather fond of these characters even still as an adult. In 2014, Blue Sky announced that they would be releasing a movie adaptation of Peanuts for movie theaters. I was excited about this. Charlie Brown had new television specials developed every now and then, the most recent being Happiness is a Warm Blanket in 2011. But Charlie Brown hadn't received a full-length feature film since Bon Voyage Charlie Brown in the 1980s. So this film released into theaters and it was a commercial success. From what I hear, not only were there a lot of kids in the audience, but there were also quite a few adults in their 40s who were looking forward to revisiting the lost magic of their childhood. I went and rewatched this film recently, and I would like to discuss just why I love it so much.
So let's just jump into it.
Life always seems complicated for good old Charlie Brown, the boy who always tries his best against seemingly impossible odds. When the little red-haired girl moves into his neighborhood, Charlie Brown develops a crush on her. Meanwhile, his best friend Snoopy embarks on an epic adventure in a fantasy world. As a World War I flying ace, the lovable beagle pursues his nemesis, the Red Baron, while also trying to win the heart of a beautiful poodle named Fifi. Can the two boys succeed in their quest for love? I don't know. The last Peanuts comic strip was published on February 13th, 2000. Days afterwards, Charles Schulz passed away of cancer. It was stated in his final letter to the public that he did not wish for the comic strip to be continued by anyone else. So of course there haven't been any comics made since Schulz's passing, but animated films and specials have been up for grabs, each becoming more and more loosely based off of their comic predecessors, calling back to familiar gags and storylines that were seen in the strips.
What happened? Charlie Brown got hit by a line drive. Does anyone here know anything about first aid?
It's probably not serious. Second or third aid will do.
Here, run over to the drinking fountain and soak this handkerchief in cold water.
You're kidding. With a head like Charlie Brown's, you'll need a bed sheet.
I'm dying, and all I hear are insults.
The script for this movie is unique in that it wasn't written by a bunch of studio executives or blue-haired Twitter users trying to force their identity onto these characters. The screenplay is written instead by Charles Schulz's son, Craig, and his grandson, Brian. I feel as if these two men are best qualified to write anything Peanuts related, since they grew up quite literally as the siblings of these fictional characters. Because of this, they were able to capture the spirit of their father's writing quite accurately, and it shows. This film does a rare thing in that it manages to be funny without being crude or relying on toilet humor. There's no fart jokes, no sexual innuendos, cussing, pop culture references, or anything like that. It relies instead on situational and character-based comedy, as well as insightful quips. And combining the comedy with the family-based writing team, it captures the spirit of the comic strip to a T. As well as the lack of crude humor, this film doesn't modernize the Peanuts gang. The kids aren't seen using tablets or cell phones, there's no video games or computers. In fact, the film doesn't establish what year it takes place in at all. Because of this, the movie is timeless, much like the original comics. I believe hundreds of years from now, people will be able to watch this film and still enjoy it because there's nothing that will cause the film to be held back or age poorly. The character of Charlie Brown is an everyman, someone that you or anyone else can see themselves as. And this film has a wonderful message that no matter how hard things get, it's important to keep persevering and putting the needs of others before yourself. The animation style is very unique for this film. Up until this point, Blue Sky was infamous for Pixar-type animation. Shiny anime eyes, fluid 30 frame per second animation, what have you.
Give me those eyes, big eyes, big eyes. Give me big anime eyes.
But for Peanuts, the animation team worked hard to make sure that the aesthetic of the film represented that of the comics, and yes, the early movies, while also breathing new life into these dusty old pages. The characters move with that classic stop-motion type of aesthetic that we're used to, but Blue Sky went the extra mile and added lovely details and textures to the characters and settings to really flesh out the world in which this movie takes place. Hair is rendered to look soft and realistic while still maintaining that cartoon quality. It doesn't border into Uncanny Valley territory, but instead is cute, soft, and fuzzy. The ice at the ice skating rink has scuffs and scratches from children's skates. Bus seats and hats are made from leather, snow has a crystalline property to it, and Snoopy's doghouse is made from wood. There's just so many nice details and textures that didn't need to be added to this movie. They could have just done primary animation, slapped this into a couple theaters, and called it good. But they put so much extra effort into the animation, and it makes the film-going experience much more immersive. I believe the best kind of films are the ones that didn't need to go the extra mile, but chose to do so anyway. Bill Melendez was the only man that Charles Schulz trusted to bring his characters to the screen. A former animator at Walt Disney Studios and Warner Brothers, Bill Melendez directed, helped animate, and provided voices for the majority of the Charlie Brown cartoons. Melendez directed all 4 original Peanuts feature films, and was the original voice actor for Snoopy and Woodstock, providing all the grunts and groans that you heard from 1965 to 2015. Bill Melendez passed away in 2008, and the team at Blue Sky thought it would be a good idea to take the actor's archived audio and use it for the voices of Snoopy and Woodstock one last time. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I've always been a firm believer that there's just something morally reprehensible about using the likeness of dead actors for a movie or project after they pass away. This has been done countless times, most notably in Star Wars and Ghostbusters. It's unnerving to see this long dead actor become a reanimated corpse just so the studio can make a couple bucks off of nostalgia. However, this is often done in live action. It's not very often that you see this done for animated films. And while you don't actually see Bill Melendez, you still hear his voice. So I don't know how to feel about this. On one hand, it's nice to hear Snoopy and Woodstock's voices again, but on the other hand, Bill Melendez has been dead for quite some time, and there's just something that seems off about this. I mean, it's not like Snoopy and Woodstock actually say anything, they just make grunts and groans and giggles. So I don't know, I guess it's okay? I'm not, this has become confusing. Let's change the subject. Snoopy and Woodstock. Let's talk about this girl. This is Fifi. So at first I thought this character was gonna be an original character made just for the film, and I was gonna be like, oh look everybody, it's a Charlie Brown OC. Are you happy now, fans?
You have your OC. Are you not entertained?
But then I did some digging and I found out that Fifi has already existed as a character previously, having a significant amount of screen time in Life is a Circus Charlie Brown and Snoopy's Getting Married Charlie Brown. Of course, they redesigned her character a bit for this film. That makes sense given the context, because you want her to look more lively and cartoony so that she conveys the same amount of motion as Snoopy. Anyhow, Kristen Chenoweth was hired to provide the voice of Fifi, which I personally think is a nice touch. Kristen is a wonderful actor on stage and screen, and portrayed Sally in the 1999 Broadway revival of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. So it's nice to see her involved in a Peanuts project once again. The child actors that were cast for this film do an excellent job in their roles as well. In the older Peanuts shows and films, voice acting was...
My own dog gone commercial. I can't stand it. Oh!
Well, let's just say it fell flat. But with this film, you can close your eyes and hear the emotion in the kids' voices, whether they're upset or joyful. There's also voices that I did not expect to hear in this film. Remember that kid from Stranger Things? Yeah, he voices Charlie Brown in this, so that's kinda cool. Remember this girl from Jessie? You know, that Disney show? Yeah, she's the little red-haired girl in this one. So that's neat, I guess. Overall, this film accomplished the impossible and managed to be both family-friendly and funny, simple and endearing. It's a really nice revisitation of the Peanuts franchise and a proper send-off to the characters. It's also a touching tribute to Charles Schulz, a love letter from his family. And I'm just glad that the Peanuts weren't bought up and overused for seasons and seasons of new television or something. That would just be a disrespectful cash grab. I'm glad that Hollywood is finally letting Charlie Brown and the gang rest instead of trying to milk them like a cow. Rest in peace, Charles Schulz, and rest in peace, Peanuts.
I'll go get a mop.
Oh, son of a bitch.